Welcome into Leap to Scale. I'm Justin. Today's guest is Dr. John Licato, the Associate Professor at USF's Bellini College of Artificial Intelligence, Cybersecurity, and Computing, and the founder of the AMHR Lab, that's the Advancing Machine and Human Reasoning Lab, as well as his startup SquarePact, where he's helping with document intelligence where hallucinations and inaccuracy just won't cut it, such as in contract and law. He also has a PhD from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and over 100 peer-reviewed publications. During this episode, we get into why slow AI beats fast AI when stakes are high, whether lawyers are actually replaceable, and the answer is actually a little bit more complicated than you think, and the impending talent crisis as AI redefines the career ladder. Oh, and why teaching AI to say, I don't know, might actually be provably impossible. He's been featured on NPR and ABC and many more places, and today he's here with us. We hope you enjoy this episode. Here's our conversation now with John.
Today, we've got our first guest on the show, everybody. It's exciting, and we didn't want it to be somebody who just has like opinions about AI or software or something. We wanted somebody who's actually building and shipping and taking accountability for a tool that actually is getting used out there in the real world. So today we have Dr. John Licato. He is the CEO and founder of SquarePact, a platform designed to help professional services teams make better decisions inside high-stake documents like contracts, and not just summarize them, but actually surface like real risks, the trade-offs, and the questions that you should ask before you sign something that you cannot unsign. John is also a personal friend, so we've had enough time to talk about conversations with him about this and know that he's not here to like sell us a magic trick or something. He's here to talk pretty honestly about what works and what doesn't work, and he's about building something that professionals can rely on. So, John, thank you very much for being here and being our guinea pig.
Thank you for having me. Although I do, in fact, have strong opinions about AI and associated topics. So,
okay, well,
not afraid to share them.
Well, I said that's not just why you're invited.
Sure.
So we assume that you
specialize in strong opinions.
Oh yeah.
So, let's start quickly with what you're building right now with SquarePact. Can you just can you tell us a little bit about what the product is and maybe why you chose that space as like your wedge?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we're describing it now is just, we're thinking of it as a layer for reliable, hallucination-resistant, complex document intelligence. So anybody that's interacted with ChatGPT and these generalist AI tools, I think pretty much understands that hallucination is a thing. It's just a fact of life. It's never going to go away entirely. But when accuracy matters, for example, you're reasoning about a contract or a dense proposal or something in a highly regulated environment, you don't want those hallucinations, right? So we're kind of going in the opposite direction, where we're completely okay with trading off speed or scalability in favor of slow, reliable AI analysis of these complex documents. So that's what we're kind of using to describe it these days.
How do you define slow? I mean, is that, these things seem like they take seconds normally. When you talk to ChatGPT, It's like spits out an answer in seconds. What's slow? Is it 30 seconds or a day?
Could be a day, but
okay.
but the thing I'm thinking of is just redundancy. So if you use a ChatGPT voice mode, right, it's much less capable than regular ChatGPT thinking, right? And that's because it prioritizes just really quick interactions, a quick response, being able to be interrupted and then respond right away, right? And it also uses probably a slightly different model under the hood, but we're going in the other direction. So it's well known that one way to reduce hallucinations is just to have redundancies, right? If the first pass of AI generates citations, then you just have another layer come in and check those citations, make sure they actually say what the AI claimed they did, right? And then you can add another layer that checks if it still makes sense holistically, and then check it from different perspectives. And obviously, each one of those introduces more time and more tokens. So that's the direction we're going. We want to build it so that it's using the best combination of available technologies there is, and we want to be able to do that as effectively as possible. One thing that gives us is the ability to float on top of whatever state of the art is. So if, inevitably tomorrow ChatGPT's OpenAI is going to come up with their next language model, right? And then Claude's going to one up them and it's going to keep going. We're not going to get anywhere if we just compete with the language models directly. Instead, we want to just say, whatever the best combination of the available tools are, we're going to put them together and make sure our trust layer provides that to the user.
And so out of all the things that you could have worked on in the world with AI and your background, why did you pick this? Why did you think this was a good space to be in?
Man, I've always been a nerd about being correct. I've been one of those guys who corrects typos and things like that. I've always really valued the kind of reasoning and the study of reasoning that deals with human beings, right? Like, humans are imperfect reasoners. We make mistakes. We have cognitive shortcuts. But when you look at a discipline like legal reasoning, in a way, the entire legal process and what you see in courts and arbitration and all that, it is a way of trying to get the best out of imperfect reasoners, right? Like the adversarial process, all these things. And so that's one thing that's always drawn me to legal reasoning, legal processes as a way of optimizing how AI thinks. So I've been publishing papers on it for years, and then ChatGPT came out and we said, we could finally actually do some of these things we've been talking about for decades, and here we are.
So if I went to if I went to SquarePact.com right now, could I use it to replace my lawyer?
Oh no, and we would not recommend that. But it could replace the pre-lawyer step, the step where you do the analysis of the contract and come up with questions to ask the lawyer. And we also think of it as a good way to do the post-lawyer analysis because, you guys have a great lawyer. I met him, but a lot of people have this experience where the lawyers they work with, I wouldn't say they do the bare minimum because they at least try to, analyze their contracts for their clients in a way that benefits them and protects them. But they're not going to spend more. They're not going to spend, hundreds and hundreds of hours trying to understand how every clause furthers your personal goals and your 10-year company, financial targets and all of this, right? They just don't have the time. It's just not feasible for them to do that for every single one of their clients. And of course, they could do it, but then the billable hours are going to stack up, right? So we think that it might be a new way of thinking about how organizations approach legal reasoning and legal services, where they have these tools just supplement what their human lawyers are able to provide for them.
I kind of want to. I'm actually kind of curious about this from a flipping the script a little bit. I'm curious on your perspective on this because I think that what you you kind of laughed about replacing the lawyer. No, never, never, never. But I guess the question is, when does that happen? If it does, and then if these things, if technology like this right now, like AI, this kind of stuff right now is replacing some of the things, the tasks in the bundle, if you will, that are the job of a law firm or the job of a lawyer.
Sure.
How does it change? I mean, just thinking about it through the lens of what a lawyer does as a job, as a professional services job, how does it change how you think about the value of that person now? I mean, the value isn't necessarily in reasoning through the contracts. The value isn't necessarily in those pieces that have now been offloaded to a reasoning engine that we can get off the shelf in software. What are the pieces that are still unique and interesting that a lawyer provides?
Yeah, there still is value in the ability to holistically approach the relationship between the legal services and the vendor, right, or the client. So a lot of the mechanical things that they have to do with contract editing. For example, this tool that we're creating for the airport, they spend so much, not just them, but people who are working Microsoft Word and doing contract editing, right? They have to spend so much time scrolling back between the definition section and then the actual defined terms, right? Which is a huge pain. They see a capitalized term in the contract and they're like, did we actually define that appropriately? Where did we put that definition,
Yeah,
right?
I've had that
And I
in
think
my
those
life.
of us who are, I think those of us who are programmers and work with competent IDEs are like, we've already solved this problem. You just right click and you go to symbol or whatever, right? But lawyers don't really have these kinds of tools built into their Microsoft Word and all they build with. So some of the low hanging fruit that we can achieve is just put those IDE like navigation features into Microsoft Word, and that solves a lot of the problem. That still frees up the lawyer to do the other tasks of strategic thinking about if I make this change to this clause, it might solve an immediate problem, but what are the long-term consequences of adopting this clause with future clients and so on, right? There's still a lot of room for that kind of work.
Very cool.
Is that work that an LLM can do today or no?
The strategic thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it could output that. And, I think we're, of course, going in that direction. But I wouldn't say that it does it in a trustable level, or at least in a way that we'd say, okay,
yeah,
lawyers, pack up your bags. It's over, right?
Yeah. Ultimately, one of the things at the end of the day is that a human being, has to be accountable for the work, right? Like,
yes,
somebody, unless everyone can eventually sue OpenAI for anything that goes wrong, there has to be like almost authorship or something, right?
Yeah, this is a huge part of it, right? So like even if a lawyer themselves is using an AI tool, ultimately whatever comes out of it, if they're co-signing it, they are ethically, legally, morally responsible for it. The lines are really going to be blurred on that, though, in the next few years. We're already seeing it with increasingly capable, autonomously acting agents doing things on people's behalf. But regarding lawyers being automated, there's an old joke about law is going to be the last field to be replaced by AI because the lawyers won't allow it to happen. Right?
Right. Like, it's nice to be the gatekeeper.
yeah. They're the only ones that can actually, take action to prevent that from happening.
Right. It's like term limits in Congress, right? Just like one of those things that systemically can't happen.
Yeah. What do you think the number one degree of people in Congress is, though, Justin?
Right, it's law. Exactly.
They're all lawyers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not computer science.
Yeah, no,
it's not
for sure.
But yeah, but they're seeing more and more acceptance of this as a field, and I don't know. It's going to be fascinating.
So let's just quickly switch gears from the product that you have to the research side, where you're at the university, and your lab at USF is about advancing machine and human reasoning. What's the practical definition of better reasoning? Especially for a business user.
So I'll give you the history. Before I came to USF in 2017, I was at IPFW in Fort Wayne. That was my first faculty position, and I was fresh out of grad school, and I was still working on very formal reasoning, right? Pure logic, proof generation, automated theorem proving, that kind of thing. And I dabbled a little bit in what we call informal reasoning, like argumentation and modeling human cognition, but I was always told to stay away from it as a research area, and I had a little fear of it too, because with formal logic, it's all predictable, it's all measurable. That something's proven or not, right? Very, very sharp boundaries. With informal reasoning, you have to deal with fallacies and biases, and people are not rational right? I hate to break the news, but
Yeah, I've noticed. Don't worry.
and I thought, even though it's really nice to say, oh yeah, you can make the world a better place by helping people to think more clearly, but communicating with people is tricky, right? You got to get with politics, and there's all these things. So I try to stay away from it. I came to USF in 2017, which was right after 2016 election. And I think that was the point where I said, okay, I can do something here, right? Like, um, and it, the analogy that I used at the time was, just the underlines that appear in Microsoft Word under bad, poorly formatted sentences or spell checkers, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are there, they are available, but it doesn't mean that everybody follows them. People still make typos and they still use grammatical errors in their writing, right? But the fact that the suggestion is there is 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 all that you need to do with this kind of AI technology, right? If the AI is takes this position where it is just kind of a nudger in the direction, like, hey, what you're using here might be kind of a biased take, or it might not be data grounded, right? And I thought, this is the direction I want to go in. So that's why I kind of structured the lab around this idea that yes, we want to make AI smarter, we want to make it able to reason better, but primarily in service of the goal of helping people reason better, whatever that means, right? That's probably the original question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the original question is
yeah.
What is how do you define better reasoning?
Yeah.
Is it about outcomes? Is it about like from in like especially in a business context, right?
Yeah, I think I just look at it in terms of like a negative definition. I know what awful reasoning looks like. The 2016, the discourse around the 2016 election was had ample examples, and I just said we can move away from that. We can design discourse environments that are better than Facebook and Twitter. Whether people are going to actually use them is a different topic, but at least we need to figure out what principles need to be in place to encourage better thinking for those that want to achieve that.
Yeah, that is at least a pretty noble origin story. Much more noble than than most business origin stories that I hear. Very cool.
Yeah. I don't know if we got there, but that's kind of what drove me closer to legal reasoning as well, and then that's how I ended up in this pit that I'm in.
And it is like reasoning is better reasoning, like, because you could think of a lot of different ways to kind of define better, right? Like more aligned is a way of being better, like more aligned with your own interests or humanity's interests, or your business's interests, right? Is maybe a way to think about better. More clever, funnier could be better. Not as sycophantic could be better. More critical could be better. How do you assign the qualities to reasoning that sort of make it better?
Yeah. In a lot of the research that I did, especially when we first started the lab, it was mostly in terms of discourse quality. So if we get people together, how do you, in unstructured debate, especially if it's about a sensitive topic, politics or whatever, right, is often not truth oriented, meaning that our ability to evaluate the quality of one's contribution to such a discussion is not usually grounded in, does this argument bring us closer to truth? Instead, it's, do I agree with this guy, or is this going to help my side win, right? So we spent a lot of time studying how do you kind of shape the discourse environment so that it does encourage discussions that end up more towards truth. That factors into kind of like that ends up showing up in a really cool way now. So in the business environment, right? So there's a lot of discourse around AI agents and how do you have multiple agents interact with each other, right? So if you have multiple agents interacting with each other, for example, to review a contract, or let's say that you have a business plan and you want to know, is this business plan feasible? Is it likely to actually lead to a return on investment or whatever, right? I'm seeing a lot of people thinking or claiming that all you got to do is just throw multiple agents at it, have them debate, and then that's it. They're going to end up with a high quality conclusion that's going to be great for my business, right? That's turns out it's not actually the case. And because if you just throw agents in there and have them fight with each other, you end up with some of the same phenomena that hamper human discussions. Peer pressure, the loudest person wins, has disproportionate amount of influence, things like that, right? So actually studying how to optimally structure group discussions so that they lead to some productive solution it applies everywhere that agentic AI is tackling nowadays.
One of the things that we focus on a lot on the engineering side is like auditability, traceability, being able to like go back and see what some agent or some model did, so we can. Sometimes it's for compliance reasons, like model, the thing is talking to a kid, or sometimes it's for you just want to audit it to make sure you can improve it. In something like with contracts and those decision makings, those are really high stakes. And where like a confidently wrong answer, which is something that I've seen these things do, is totally worse than no answer. Saying like I don't know, right? And these things typically bend. I don't know if they bend towards truth, but they typically try and bend towards, at least in my experience, like people pleasing or giving an answer
or successfully completing a task, right?
Yeah.
There is an incentive to complete the task successfully, probably inherent in the weights.
So do you agree with that? And then if yes, how do you go about designing stuff that, avoids the failure of that mode?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But the thing is, humans have that same bias, right? If you asked me that question right now and I said, I don't know, next question.
Yeah, sure.
None of us would be satisfied with that, right? Like, in my ethics class, I usually show this video from the Jimmy Kimmel show many years ago, where the Obamacare thing just passed. And he was asking people on the street, do you prefer Obamacare or the, what was the actual name of it? The American Health Care Act or something like that?
Yeah.
I forget what it was. We just call it Obamacare now, right? But he would ask people on the street, like, which one is better, the Obamacare or the Affordable
Care Act?
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then the people that they kept on camera were like, it's Obamacare. And then they say, why? Why do you think that one's better? And because Obama supports it. They would give some rationale, right? And this is just a bias that we have. We don't like having to, especially if you have a camera in front of you, I guess, but we just don't like saying, I don't know. So maybe that's the reason why it shows up in LLMs. But the thing is, even in human discourse systems, there is a way to take that tendency and use it to make better discourse environments. And that is the adversarial interaction, where if you already know that people have this bias to, once they lock onto a position, they are going to double down on it until it reaches an illogical conclusion, and then they get violent, right? So if you just get people to defend competing positions, they will put forth the strongest arguments they can for those positions, and then you let the truth kind of sort out of that. The individual participants may not be happy with the outcome because they're still locked in to their side, but if you take the view of the whole discourse, then theoretically, at least, it should lead to more truth-oriented conclusions. So we use that in human systems, like in adversarial court interactions, and we can use it in AI systems, like when you're analyzing a contract and you have multiple perspectives. You need to just get them to debate, and then have a moderator that can make sure that debate is carried out fairly.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I would assume that it's almost never acceptable for an attorney in a court of law to say, I don't know. But it's fine, obviously, for somebody on like the stand to say it if they're a witness. Like, I don't know, I don't recall. One thing I've noticed in our profession is generally the more confident somebody is, then the more they know, the more they're, and maybe the more senior they are, the more they're willing to admit that they don't know and they're going to go and find out. It's like it's not going to hurt their ego. They're like, I know what I'm talking about. And this is a question I don't know the answer to. I need to go and do some more research, or I need to like go and experiment. Is there, if you're like automating systems that are trying to reproduce kind of long tail, confident, professional service kind of workflows, is there a way to build something to build an I don't know feature into some of these things? Or do we kind of have to, like, is that part of the human in the loop situation?
Well, so that's the thing. I don't know if I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
See, he's an expert.
I said the thing. So from what I've seen, any effort to bake an I don't know answer into like the optimization criteria of these like machine learning models ends up harming downstream quality in other tasks. And there might be a really deep reason for this, right? There might be a reason.
Can you explain what you mean by that? Because I think that's such an interesting thing what you just said.
Yeah. So these language models are huge. Billions and billions of weights, right? So if you optimize it to do one thing, then it could harm its ability to do something else. So if you remember, maybe like last year or maybe 2 years ago, when a lot of companies were trying to bake in less bias in language models, it ended up harming, mathematical performance, its ability to solve math problems.
Weird.
And so just because, well, yeah, I could go for hours about the speculations for why that's the case, but so it could be that when you put I don't know in there as an option, then it actually harms its ability to passionately advocate for one position at a time. And it could be that this ability to switch into this, hey, I have an idea, let me explore it deeply to its logical conclusion, this sort of depth first search rather than breadth first search, right? It might be that ability to do that is a really fundamental process for how deep thinking actually gets done, right? It may just be that, really smart people, they do still dive deeply into one idea. They just have the ability to say, oh, okay, this is crazy, and then back out and then try another one, right? But if you harm the ability to do that deep dive, then it might harm the whole thing, right? So this is me speculating a little bit now. So,
and maybe there's an aspect of it where there's if you say I don't know a lot, there's an aspect of that might correlate to task persistence, right? The ability to continue doing something until you succeed. And if when you're reasoning, you are likely to say, I don't know, then it might be that when you are completing tasks, you might be willing to say, I give up. Yeah. Those things could or couldn't be related. It's hard to say.
There's a great analog to human thinking there, right? Like if you just become very comfortable with giving up as soon as things get tough, you're not going to get hard tasks done, right?
Right.
So finding that balance between how much they're supposed to struggle. So knowing how much struggle you're supposed to have before you reach a conclusion is just an impossible problem to solve. I think there's probably a halting problem.
It's like a PNP kind of like thing there. Yeah.
Probably even deeper. Yeah, it's probably a halting problem. It's probably provably impossible to do that. So
yeah,
I think with expert human systems though, there's a big difference between what you don't know currently versus what is unknowable, right?
Yeah.
So and some of your your task persistence as a human or as an expert is going to lean toward, well, I don't know if that's unknowable or not. I'm going to go find out. I'm going to try and work it out, and then you might actually come to a conclusion that proves that it is unknowable, or that's going to end in a tautology, or it's going to take you down some sort of logical fallacy thing. So those are really interesting kind of problems to solve. But I think from a business, interesting from a philosophical perspective, but for most like business tasks, at least that we want to try and automate or at least make easier, or help somebody augment their ability to do it in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't think we're going to be getting into philosophical questions that deeply yet. There's a whole lot of fish in that ocean still to go and get.
Yes. Yeah. The shallower problem that would have, I think, immediate business implications is that the agent itself cannot possibly know with 100% confidence how much it should be struggling before it needs to give up on a problem, right? It's just impossible. You could be, there's that problem. Should I keep digging or is it, and if I give up digging, is it just that I should have gone just one more inch, right? That there's just no way to know. And so that's why you have to try different approaches in parallel, different levels of persistence in parallel. But you're never going to have one AI agent that's going to be able to solve every problem perfectly. There's just a fundamental limitation of information processing that I think we can assume will always be the case.
Yep, I kind of agree. I kind of absolutely, and I kind of think like as we look into the future, we're at the very start of a pretty insane weird curve that kind of a lot of work, especially professional services that rely on humans doing work right now that may not be doing a lot of that work in the future, or maybe doing it in a very different way. I think I'm kind of curious. We talked a lot about research. You're obviously launching a product as well, so you kind of get to approach this both from the market standpoint as well as the theory standpoint. As you look at this right now, I mean, what do the next few years look like? Where is the line right now between what is doable, what isn't doable? I'm a service company. I'm in professional services, and I'm thinking about adopting this. How far can I push this? How good is this right now? How do I think about it for the next couple of years? How do I think about hiring? What do I do? What should I do?
Yeah.
Tell us, John, because I'm actually interested. I'm going to take notes as well.
Yeah, there's so much in all of that, right? I mean, I can tell you this: finding product market fit and validating problems before you start building is still a problem that I've not seen any AI solution even come close to solving satisfactorily. Right? Nothing beats so far the classic customer discovery interview and having intuition about the segment you want to go after, but through hundreds of conversations, whatever it is. I don't see that being replaced anytime soon. What were some of the other areas that you were talking about for service businesses?
I mean, I think just overall, just like as you look at this thing, I mean, there's a lot of jobs are going to get, or people are afraid of jobs getting replaced. And in professional services, like what is the line? Like what can I do safely? What should I not try to have it do? And I think actually it's probably the case where most people outside of those of us who work with it every day underestimate it more than overestimate it. Would you say that's true?
I think that's true. Yeah. In my little AI bubble, I assume everybody has tried OpenClaw and Claude Cowork, but it's
and I think that it's in single digit percentages right now here in early 26 in terms of the amount of the workforce that has tried this stuff. So if somebody's listening, they've got a 30-person firm, they got a 60-person firm, 100-person department, and they're trying to figure out how to figure out what this means for them.
Yeah. Here's the thing, like all of these industries, we're seeing this common pattern where they say, we have to move towards higher level thinking and strategic thinking, and programmers have to be more project managers, right, or product managers. where they have to get comfortable with the idea of delegating subtasks to multiple agents and coordinating them, which is fine, right? That's absolutely true. That's how you kind of stay ahead of the curve. And of course, what ends up happening is it replaces some of the lower level introductory tasks that we would normally give to interns and first year employees, right? The natural consequence over the next few years is that we are fully expecting this is going to lead to a shortage of qualified employees to move up to those leadership ranks because they never had those formative years where they were allowed to make mistakes and you know the investment wasn't put in them to allow them to make those mistakes. So this is a pattern that I'm seeing across so many industries, and I rarely see anybody saying, you know what, even though we are using AI to do a lot of tasks faster, we are still giving the same amount of opportunities to junior employees and interns so that we can develop their skill set.
So here's a question for you from both sides, then, from both the commercial and the professorial side, which is that if to me it seems that if we are not going to be developing junior consultants, junior developers, junior whatever's through our traditional mechanisms, because those jobs are going to be taken up by AI, I keep thinking to myself, where are we going to get these people from? Where's the next generation going to come from? And the thing that has kind of recently been in my head is maybe it has to come from more traditional academic backgrounds again. And it's weird because the reason that idea strikes me as strange is because for the last 10 years, every tech bro I've hung out with has been like, oh, my kids are never going to go to university or anything like that. That's like something from, the 1990s, and like no one's going to need that. But now I'm like thinking maybe that is that's going to be our last resort. What do you think, Professor?
I mean, it makes sense, and I've always been a strong advocate of the idea that we shouldn't assume that their college years are one thing, and then we don't have to worry about giving them real world experience because they're going to get that when they get their job, right? I always thought that disconnect seemed unnatural to me. I thought it should have been more of a continuous transition there. So yeah, it does make sense that they're going to have that. But the thing is, as much as I want to say that I and my fellow colleagues know exactly what it's like to be in industry and what the day to day is like, the fact is we don't, right? Like the past year or two building my startup has been such a steep learning curve that I learned so much that I didn't know in the academic world, So I don't know how you're going to bridge that gap and make it so that we know exactly what to show them, so that transition to work will be smooth, or we can make the transition to work smooth, but the transition from university to senior positions, that I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and that's probably a good thing. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about your, not just your hiring. I mean, certainly you're hiring over the next couple of years, but also just your sort of professional development. And as you adopt more and more AI, just thinking about keeping a balance on how you are going to move people up to your organization, not next year, but in 5 years. Because that starts today. Like the person who has that position in 5 years is working on that position now, right? So yeah, it's a really important thing to keep in mind.
And they are not going to be able to do the project. I mean, I've always been I always feel like a good project manager is one that could do the job themselves, the non-project manager jobs themselves if they had to, right? And the idea that we might have people who are doing this coordination role who don't understand the roles that they're coordinating. I don't know how you bridge that.
Yeah. It will be an interesting time. That is absolutely for sure. Absolutely
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, John, thank you, sir. You have been very gracious with your time today with us. It is very rare to see somebody who's not only an amazing, smart researcher, but also somebody who has transitioned into that business and entrepreneurial world. And it's, you don't know just the talking points, you know, the way that actually works behind the scenes. And you're doing like really hard work in both spaces, and it's just immensely impressive, and you're an immensely impressive person. So I'm super grateful for you being here today, giving us such a thoughtful, but also like the clarity you bring to these points. The way you think is super clear and super impressive. I wish I could be as thoughtful and as clear as you are. Thank you for being my friend and letting me rant to you about this stuff, this crazy AI stuff. And thanks for playing squash with me sometimes, man. We should pick that back up and get back on the call.
Absolutely do. That's something the AI can't do yet either. So that's
you don't want to play
the answer to the question. Yeah.
Well, thank you again, my friend. Thank you again for joining us and being so gracious with your time. Have a great rest of your week and have a great weekend.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sean.